baobab tree. Now, baobab trees are also known as a tree of life because that trunk can store thousands of gallons of water that animals can use as a pretty convenient drinking source. So, for example, elephants will use their tusks to poke holes into their trunk. It goes about 9 months out of the year in leaves in order to conserve said water. And now as we head down this hill, we are officially entering the savanna. The savanna is the largest region here on the reserve and is home to many different species of animals, some of whom you might recognize here. Please see them. So I'm not showing, I do already see some of the side giraffes out in the distance. Now we're So Maasai giraffe are one of several different species of giraffes. There's actually 7 in total. They all have different coat patterns. So for the Maasai giraffe, the edges of their spots are much more rough and jagged, almost like jigsaw puzzle pieces in a way. Now, no two are ever going to be exactly the same. So the spots are going to be as unique to them as our human fingerprints and how they can tell each other apart. Of course, giraffes are also the tallest land animals in the world. So they average about 16 to 20 feet tall. So tall enough for their heads to pass over the canopy of the truck if we were to drive by that closely. But everybody does have to start off somewhere. So for baby giraffes, when they're first born, they're going to clock in at a whopping 6 feet tall.
For real. They're born at the
Now on the left-hand side, we are passing by this den. Just on the other side of these bushes is where you can see some African painted dogs. I know they're kind of tough to spot over there. They got the black, white, and tan colors. And the painted dogs get their name. Just make sure they're all seated. Everybody's sitting down. Thank you. So they get their name from the color markings on their coat that look a bit like a paint splatter. They are in an offshoot or an extension of the canine family called Canid. So they're not directly related to your dogs at home, but very similar. Now we're coming up on a couple of animals here on the left-hand side. Closest to us are the anaconda cattle, and then way out in the distance is where you can see the sable antelope. Now the sable antelope, they are the official emblem for us here on the reserve, and that's for their strength. In fight or flight situations, they are going to be the animals known to fight. Pretty dominant and territorial. Those tall, curved back horns they'll use in sparring matches against one another, but also to prevent predators like lions from jumping onto their backs. And then we see the Ankole cattle. Now the Ankole cattle, they are also known as Watusi cattle, and that is named after the Watusi tribe who first domesticated them. They're one of 2 domesticated species. Their horns stretch about 6 to 8 feet across and are made of a honeycomb structure on the inside that the blood circulates through, helps to regulate their body temperature, very similar to what sweating does for humans. Alright, get a little bit closer to one of those giraffes here on our left. One of them is crossing at the head. So obviously the majority of their height does come from their legs and their really long neck. On average, a giraffe neck is going to be about 6 feet long, and same goes for their tail if you include the hair at the end. And it's going to act as like a fly swatter to those bugs that big. Lots of animals have a tail right here at the end for the same exact reason. You can see those little knobs on the top of their heads. Those are called ossicones. They are considered to be horns. Usually or primarily they are just kind of there for decoration, but every once in a while males can use them as a defense mechanism. Walmart, Best Buy, those kind of stores do have recycling programs so that you can properly dispose of those items. Over time, it is going to help to lower the amount of coal to mining taking place, ultimately saving both their homes and their populations so that we can continue to see and learn from them. I believe there is a lot more down here by the watering hole that we're going to be doing in the water. Slowly. I can't pull up anymore at the moment just because we are stopped up ahead, but hopefully we'll be moving here soon, and I know some of you can get a pretty good view of her drinking down here. Hopefully we can move shortly so everybody else can see as well.
Olha o outro lindo ali. É, que ele é grandão. Porque ele é alto, viu? Você quer ver aqui? Não, não vai estar.
Take a sip.
Cara, ele é muito grande. estivesse tomando um banhinho.
So I was talking about that sunscreen, so that's what she's doing right now. Applying the sunscreen. Nice and cool. I'm sure it feels so good. A lot of people think that that trunk is used like a straw. It's actually not. Like, yes, they'll slurp it up, but then they'll put the food or the water in their mouth. So it doesn't actually go all the way up and through the trunk. But there's two little ends. You can kind of see them at work. They're at the end of the trunk, kind of like finger-like protrusions almost, and that's how they're able to pick up things.
She's doing so good.
I know, I wish I could move it. Oh, yes I can. Okay, cool. There we go. We can stop for like 2 seconds, then we gotta go. Access to the vegetation. And then other animals can use those trees as a good scratching place and look at those. We're gonna pull up around the corner. There's a break in the trees that I think will get us a pretty good view of the elephant hanging out here. Inside. There's actually two of them. We'll get a really close view of that first one here in a second. But there's that one. Now we see those ears are flapping back and forth. That's a good way they can cool themselves down. The back sides of elephant ears are made of a whole bunch of itty bitty blood vessels. So when their ears move and the wind blows over those blood vessels, that can lower their body temperature about 50 degrees. Now that trunk is made up of tens of thousands of muscles. So a really intricate system that's strong enough to push down trees, delicate enough to pick up something as small as a pebble. The most common are Hartmann's mountain zebras. And they get their name from living in the mountainous ranges of Africa. They have these really small hooves that allow them to walk, run, and climb along that rocky terrain a little bit easier. Now I do want to point out there's an antelope behind some grasses on the left-hand side about halfway up this hill. That is an eland hanging out over there munching on the grasses. Now the elands are the largest antelope species who live here on the reserve. Males get to about 2,000 pounds, 6 feet tall at the shoulder. Now we see there's a springbuck, the little buck. Springbuck gets their name from their ability to spring into the air about 6 feet straight up and 13 feet forward. When they do that repeatedly, it's called bronking. So that's how you cut the front through this truck. And then we see the wildebeest. Wildebeest are known by a second name, and that's Gnu, spelled G-N-U, and that's actually the sound they make. Wildebeest do lead the largest wave migration of any mammal. So every year, anywhere from 1 million to 1.5 million wildebeest are going to migrate, about 500 to 1,000 across Africa. And usually they follow a so-called pressure station. Now every animal out here on the savannah kind of has their own at-home job in particular in the landscape. Giraffes are going to be like the tree of trimmers. So they spend about 20 hours of the day just solely eating, and usually they pull the leaves off of the ends of the branches of the trees. Whereas animals like the wildebeest, the springbuck, the zebra, they're going to be like the lawnmowers. They spend most of their days grazing on the grasses, keeping it nice and short and tidy.